Invocation, and then later at the pledge, Councilwoman Chaperos. We stand, please.
Please enter the conference host voice password, then press pound. To join the conference as a participant, please star.
Vice Mayor, you may want to call the meeting to order and then have a roll call so you can identify the individuals on the telephone as well.
You want me to do that now?
Remain standing and do that.
After the invocation.
Okay, let's go ahead and pray. Father God, we just want to thank you for the opportunity to come tonight, God, and make decisions in the freedom you've given us. Father, we just pray for our city. We pray for all the graduates that are graduating this tonight and over the next few nights, God. We pray for safety for them in our city. God, we just thank you for this great place we call Maricopa. Would you pray this in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? Amen.
Thank you. The clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Chaperos. Here. Councilmember Kimball. Here. Councilmember Manfredi. Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Wade. Here. Vice Mayor Brown.
Here.
Mayor Price. Here. Vice Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Three of our colleagues are away for a conference. That's why you do not see them here. The mayor, council members Wade and Smith. So they're communicating to us by phone, if you're curious to those weird voices. There are no proclamations or awards, so I have no report to give. Report from the
Vice Mayor Brown here. I would like to bring our Finance Director, Brian Mitchell, up to the microphone, and he will be introducing our new Purchasing Manager.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, Council, City Manager. I'd like to introduce Peggy Farron. Can you please stand? She is our new Purchasing Manager. She has very extensive public purchasing experience. She is also an very active member of the NIGP, which is the National Institute of Governmental Purchasing, and she's worked with school districts, cities, and hospitals, so she brings a very wide variety of purchasing experience, and we welcome her here at the city and looking for a very long working relationship.
welcome.
Vice Mayor, the second announcement that I have, I would like to also formally announce the hiring of Martin Scribner. Mr. Scribner will take over on June the 22nd as the Director over Development Services. He has more than 17 years in the planning field and a significant amount of those years as a director, so we're looking forward to him joining. I also want to recognize Dana Burkhart, who has done a wonderful job for us on an interim basis, and you know he's going to be sticking with us for a while, and so we're going to keep him busy. We may end up keeping him extremely busy with the comprehensive our master plan going through. So he's done really well, and can't be proud enough of him, of the leadership that he has displayed in moving the department forward. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Call to the public. I'd like to recognize Councilwoman Chaperos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You heard me mention at our work session that this past Saturday we held our first ever volunteer recognition event. I just want to take this opportunity to thank some of the people that helped make this possible. We had Alicia and Rodney, both employees out at Copper Sky, that helped us with the setup. And I also want to thank some of our staff members, Jennifer Brown, Paul Jepson, Ruben Garcia and Sarah Delgadillo for all their work putting all the components of that event together. Helen's Catering provided us with a very, very generous and very delicious breakfast. And last but not least, I want to thank our sponsors, some of our local Maricopa businesses who pitched in and covered a lot of the expenses of the event. It was Big O Tires, Maricopa Ace Hardware, Dr. Karen Kramarchek and the Family Dentistry of Maricopa, Crate Coffee, A1 Health and Wellness, inmaricopa.com, Fry's Marketplace, and Bashes. We have over 300 people that volunteer in one capacity or another, not just our board, committee, and commission members, but our police volunteers, our coaches, and people that are involved with our youth Parks and Rec programs, our MAP volunteers, our youth council, a lot of different people in police and fire departments that provide support services to those. And this was a way for us to recognize and thank them. So we distributed lanyards and pins. Every year we're going to have a different pin. So if anybody that was unable to attend Saturday and is a BCC member or a volunteer for the city, if you contact Sarah Delgadillo, she will make arrangements for you to come and pick up your lanyard and your pin. But I just wanted to take this opportunity to not only thank everybody that helped make the event possible, but thank you to our volunteers. We couldn't do what we do in Maricopa without you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chaperos. Austin Pierce.
Good evening, members of council who are both with us and with us with their voice. My name is Austin Pierce. I'm the chairman of the Maricopa Youth Council, and I am here to talk about an event really quick, but before that, the last time I was here at a general meeting was when we were soon about to have our Be the Match bone marrow registration drive, which happened on April 15th at Copper Sky. And that was a very, very successful event where we had 34 people registered to become bone marrow donors in only 2.5 hours. And to put that into perspective, the woman with Be the Match who trained us said that a very successful drive would be 50 people registered in 4 hours. And we did 34 in 2.5. So that was very, very exciting because that's 34 potential lives that might be saved because of the event we did. So now I'm going to talk to you about this next big project that we're doing, and it's called Copa Care Packages. Now this is an event that we launched back in the winter months, and it's basically a drive where we collect basic necessities for homeless people that we then package and distribute to homeless in Maricopa and our neighboring communities. So for the summer launch of this, we are really hoping that everybody in this room can take back to your friends, families, coalitions, clubs, committees, and really bring awareness to what we're trying to do. We're asking that you bring necessities like sunscreen, water, lip balm, hats, lotions, deodorant, shampoo, brushes, basically anything that you may use every single day for hygiene or something of that sort, and bring them to Copper Sky Recreational Facility at any time during their open hours, anywhere from now until next Monday. And then on Tuesday, the Maricopa Youth Council will meet and package them, and then we will distribute them accordingly. Back in the winter, with just 2 weeks of zero advertising, just a little flyer in Copper Sky, we were able to gather enough supplies to put together 18 full packages, which included a fleece blanket and at least 20 essential items for homeless people, which we would then keep in our cars and distribute to people as they needed. So we're really hoping to obviously beat that number, and each time we do Copa Care Packages each season, we want to do even more boxes. But I'm really hoping that you guys will take this to heart right now, because this is the time where we really need supplies like this most, because it's not a holiday season anymore. People aren't as giving. People aren't as willing to do things during the summertime just because it's so darn hot all the time. And so, especially with that, that sunscreen, those hats, that water, Band-Aids, are just really, really great things that we would appreciate right now. So thank you so much for hearing this short presentation, and I really hope that the next time you're at Fry's in the 99-cent store and you're picking up something, you just think, oh, you know what, I can grab an extra thing and go ahead and bring that to Copper Sky. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Austin. I'd like to announce that the Alzheimer Association Desert Southwest Chapter will be having a conference June the 5th at our public library. Care Partners Mini Conference. Pre-registration is required. If you're interested, call the number 602-528-0545. The check-in is 12:30 to 1 p.m. Conference will begin 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Topics will be memory loss, dementia, the basic Alzheimer's disease, difficult behavior, what do I do, and legal and financial planning for Alzheimer's patients. I'd like to have a motion for the minutes of March the 5th and also the workshop and the regular meetings.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. There's a public hearing, 8.1. Mayor City Council will hear public comments on zoning overlay case number Zone 15-01, request by the City of Maricopa amending the city's zoning map to include the Transportation Corridor Overlay District. Dana?
That action, you're opening the public hearing.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor, council members. This item is to open the public hearing, so I assume you've done that. Thank you very much.
Okay. I get a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Vice Mayor, there have been no cards that have been submitted for the public hearing agenda item 8.1, so you can now close the public hearing.
All right. I move to close the public hearing. Those in favor?
Vice Mayor, you can now open the public hearing for item 8.2, public hearing 15-06.
All right, fine. Dana?
Vice Mayor, if you could, open the public hearing and then close if there is no public comment. Thank you very much.
Right. Public hearing 8.2 has been closed.
Any cards? For 8.2,
Motion to
close that.
approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Vice Mayor.
It's been moved to support. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Regular agenda. 10.1, an ordinance, the mayor and city council of Maricopa, Arizona, amending the city of Maricopa's zoning map to include a transportation overlay district as described in zoning case Zone 15-1 for all property generally situated within 150 feet of the right-of-way of State Route 238, State Route 347, and the Maricopa Casa Grande Highway within the city of Maricopa's incorporated districts. It's a roll call vote necessary.
Can I get a roll call? Councilmember Wade? Aye. Councilmember Smith?
Vice Mayor, I believe that there has to be a motion and a second for approval or denial of this ordinance.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 15-06.
Mr. Vice Mayor, second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
There will need to be a roll call vote.
Okay.
Councilmember Wade? Councilmember Smith? Councilmember Chapados?
Yes.
Councilmember Kimball?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Price? Yes. Motion passes.
Good. Ordinance 10.2, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council, City of Maricopa, amending the City of Maricopa zoning map to include a mixed-use heritage overlay district as described in zoning case Zone 15-2, or a portion of the property declared as the redevelopment district by resolution 0848, now known as the Heritage District, within the City of Maricopa's incorporated limits. Is there a motion?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 15-07.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor?
It's a roll call.
Vice Mayor, there will also be a need to be a roll call vote on this item.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Wade? Councilmember Chapados?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Kimball?
Yes.
Mayor Price?
Yes.
Motion passes.
10.3, IGA 15-2, the mayor and city council shall discuss and possibly take action on approval of intergovernmental agreement between Pinal County and the city of Maricopa for the use of land located at 46250 McDavid Road, Maricopa, Arizona, to operate a recycling collection center and solid waste transfer station for an amount not to exceed $1 a year to be paid out of a general fund, non-department, professional, occupational.
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, this IGA is a part of the recycling RFP. The next item will cover that, but in working together, we are offering, the city's offering recycling service to all of Western Pinal County, and as part of that partnership with the county, they are allowing us to use this site to operate our recycling and occasion and periodical hazardous waste pickup events. So this first IGA is that agreement to allow the city of Maricopa to utilize that property on McDavid, and that'll be part of our second portion of this presentation, or this agenda item. But approval of this will seal the deal between us and the county for the land. If you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Paul. 10.4,
Vice Mayor, I move to approve item 10.3.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Did everyone vote? 10.4, 15.5, mayor and city council shall discuss and possibly take action to approve of agreement with the Waste Technologies LLC doing business right-of-way disposal for recycling and household hazardous waste collection services in an amount not to exceed $192,000 a year, to be paid from the general fund, general government, professional, and occupational, and approve a budgetary transfer in an amount not to exceed $20,000 from the general fund, general government contingency to general fund, general government, professional, and occupational fund. This order is in accordance to the City of Maricopa's Purchasing Code, Article 4, Section 3-215, bidding procedure. Paul?
Well, Vice Mayor, members of council, as you know, we went out to RFP for recycling services and for someone to hold periodic hazardous waste events. Right-of-way disposal had the most responsive bid, and we entered into a negotiated contract. What's before you tonight is that contract with right-of-way. The contract is for weekend services or Saturday services for the recycling of different types of plastic, aluminum cans, glass, cardboard, along with tires and appliances. They also will accept, for a minimum charge, bulk trash. The amount for this service is $10,000 a month. That also includes the, $1,000 that for the tire recycling. It is written for not to exceed $192,000, but we are only budgeting $120,000 now. There is contingencies in these contracts that if we want to do more, we can do that. So, but we will have to come back for council approval. Say we wanted to have a household hazardous waste event, we will we'll come back and make sure that councils approve that and fund that. But this will get the ball rolling. After this contract, right away, we'll start operating out of that McDavid site. They have 30 days to get up and running, and we've been preparing for this. So it's moving us forward in council's priority to make sure that we offer recycling services to the residents of Maricopa, and because of our partnership with the county, we'll be offering recycling services to all of Western Pinal County, and this should help keep those tires and refrigerators and bags of trash located in a safe place to be handled properly. Any questions?
Well, how many bids did we receive?
I think we had 2 that were responsive, or that were complete. And
Any
this was
questions?
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. My first question, well, am I to assume, or the council to assume, that the 20,000 is to cover the next 2 months of the budget for the contingency transfer for them to get up and running?
Right.
And my next question would be to the city manager, where does that leave us for this year contingency-wise?
We will still have a healthy outgoing finance director, Brian Ritchloff, but it leaves us still with a very healthy contingency amount, because we did not realize the receiving a grant for the fire truck, so those monies are recycled back. We are still hopeful that we will be successful, but that will be next fiscal year if we are.
Thank you.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Kimball, with the fire truck grant not being approved this year, or still hasn't been approved, by the time we would purchase it, it'd be next fiscal year. So that $130,000 that we set aside for that grant would be the match. That will go back be available for contingency. So we'll have roughly about $190,000 to $200,000 in contingency left over.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Chapalos?
Well, you said they have 30 days to transition, but do we have a projected actual opening date?
I think it will be prior to 30 days because we have so much lead time, but we do have a representative from Right Away. This is Jeremy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and council members. We've been preparing for this, and we are ready to start as early as this Saturday if everyone chooses so. So we're ready to start immediately whenever we're asked to.
Okay, thank you, and welcome to Maricopa family.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I'd also like to take this time to recognize Gina Diabella for years and years of service to the city of Maricopa, often at her own expense, her own dedication and time. You provided valuable service here, and we couldn't have done this without you, so thank you.
I agree.
Vice Mayor, members of council, I would like to ask that Gina was very involved in the transition process, made sure that that everything went smoothly. Everybody's been working together between the county, which has kind of covered the services and done the hauling for the past 2 months as we gotten this straightened out. They've put almost 40,000 into in man hours and helping to collect. So it's been a real team effort. But I will tell you that Gina has been right there. She's got a passion for recycling, and she's very proud. We should all be very proud of what she's done in Maricopa, and I think we'll continue that with right-of-way service.
I certainly agree with that. The gentleman from Right Away, he didn't identify himself. What is his name?
Oh, Jeremy, what's your last name? What's that? Jeremy.
All right.
My hearing's going bad. Sorry.
All right. May I have a motion on 10.4, please?
Okay.
Vice Mayor?
Yes?
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Go ahead.
First question I have is regarding this contract. Although we need it, want it, and support it, what are our recourses from a performance tracking? Are we reviewing it every 6 months? Are we reviewing it every 3 months? Because I assume that if we
You want to come and speak to that, please?
Yeah.
Did you
hear the question?
Did you understand the question?
Brown and Mayor Price, I believe the mayor's question was, how are we measuring the performance of this contract?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, I would have to defer and get a complete answer for you on that. I've been trained not to shoot from the hip at council, so I would have to defer and get back to you on that answer.
Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, the simple answer to it is that we continue to monitor the effectiveness of the contract. If the council would like a full report regarding its performance after 90 days, 120 days, we can certainly provide that information to you. Vice Mayor Brown, Mayor Price, with that being said, our intention will be to move forward with drafting a report after 120 days of operation to identify how they're performing.
Very well. May I have a motion, please?
I'll second and add the stip that within 120 days, we'll get a report from staff on that.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Aye. And that Squeech has it too. 10.5, Mayor and City Council will hear a presentation discussing the legislative outcome of 2015 Arizona legislative session. Paul?
Vice Mayor, if I could interrupt for just 1 second. As you are going through your presentation, if you could identify when you are changing slide for the council members on the telephone, that would be very helpful.
Okay, all right, I will. All right, so on the first slide, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, I just wanted to give a legislative recap of how this 51st legislative session went, or the first regular session of the 51st legislature. It was very interesting. The opening day started January 12th. They closed shop on April 3rd, 3:30 in the morning. Senate closed a little earlier. That kind of caused a ruckus. 87 days is very short. They hadn't had that since like 1970, so they went very fast. They also passed the budget early on in the session, I think at about 60 days. So that's, usually it's go 100, 110 days, pass the budget middle of the night, and then out of there. So a little different operation. Bills proposed, we had 1,163 bills. Signed were 324, vetoed 20 bills. And as the budget was a $9.1 billion budget for the state. Given the date of sine die, the effective date for all of the legislation on the 90 days would be July 3rd, 2015. So changing slides to Maricopa's, a reminder of Maricopa's 2015 legislative agenda. It was an extensive agenda, but this is kind of the highlights. Proactive revenue, protect our revenues, seek property tax fairness, protect our local control. We had some landlords' rights, economic development tools, public safety, transportation, and department requests. So moving forward, based on those items, I kind of have a good news, bad news slides here. So the good news was one of our two department proposed bills, which was 2557, codes adopted by reference. This was the streamlining from having to have 3 physical copies sitting on the shelf in the city to allowing to have 1 physical copy and 1 electronic copy. This is proposed by our city clerk and made it through to be signed by the governor, so we are good there. That is good news. There is another bill, majority vote calculation, that clarified, now that we have November ballots and have a very long ballot, The count for getting a majority by city council is based on how many people voted for council, the city portion of the election. There's a down ballot fatigue that goes on. And so they're doing if you made your 50%, your majority, based on how many people voted in the segments of the city elections rather than just the cast ballot in general. It cleaned up a faux pas or something that was holding up some of the elections in some of the cities. So that was good news. It was promoted by the Resolution Committee and League of Cities, and so that was a good news win. TPT cleanup, everybody loved this. Clarified some of the TPT laws. No controversies there. One of the fun ones. There's so many fun ones. I had to pick and choose, but that was directly related to us. There was a move to block ticket quotas, and that was passed but vetoed. I checked with the chief, and we have no quotas. The good news, and it's hard to say good news that they failed, but I think you realize the point. So I just changed slides to the good news. The first slide. The first number on this slide is the 2554 residential rental tax. We always talk about that one issue is going to be the big issue that makes us all that defines a session. I think this one did, removing the ability of cities to tax residential rentals. We did rally together, and that was defeated early on. The same sponsor also sponsored restrictions on municipalities' ability to restrict certain types of vegetation, and that was ultimately failed. There were 3 firearms bills that were in the mix. And it's a little bit, we had a lot of concern over because they've come back before. Firearms in public places, it would allow anyone to conceal carry into a public building that was paid with taxpayer dollars unless you had a security system and security staff manning that security system to keep all guns out. That failed. Firearm preemption. Okay, firearm preemption was the idea that if a city passes anything that contradicts state law, that it would fine the entity $50,000. This was a revised version of the one that would fine the council individually, but this would have fined the entity. It failed. And then prohibition on enforcement of the Second Amendment limits. This bill would have denied any city or government entity in Arizona from assisting with federal firearms legislation. And all 3 of these, they were very highly touted, but they were to a point difficult to enforce, and the 3 of them failed. One that's near and dear to my heart, the speed restriction penalties. There was a bill to pretty much allow a pass on anything under 11 over on the speed limit. So if you were clocked doing 9 over in, say, a 45 zone, they really couldn't do anything except a finite resource fine of $15. That failed. Pretty much, well, I won't editorialize, but we felt that would jeopardize public safety by having this built-in 10-mile-an-hour pad, because everybody builds in 10 miles anyway. Changing slides to bad news. We had 2 that were very close to Maricopa. There was an IGA indemnification. This was popping up with ADOT requirements that ADOT contracts are being written that they would require us to indemnify ourselves and require us to indemnify ADOT. And this would have been a restriction on one agency being required to indemnify both parties. But unfortunately, it did fail, and we're going to try again next year. Also, the property tax or property sale threshold. This was a Maricopa-sponsored bill. This would have raised the amount of for the city to liquidate or sell city land if it was right now, if it's over $500,000 in value, it has to go to vote of the public. We tried to raise that to $1.5 million. And through no fault of the bill's own, it was slow getting through the Senate, and the Senate got a rush to get out, and so it died on the floor, about 200 bills that were left hanging at the very end of the session. They said they were doing the hard ones first, and we're saving the easy ones for the end, and then they just kind of went home. So that was, we will try again next year on our property sale threshold bill. Changing slides to the mixed bag slide. Just a couple of highlights of some that were very interesting and impacted Maricopa. All of these had an impact on Maricopa. There was a bill that would have, if they passed a requirement to collect online sales tax, would have had a corresponding reduction in sales tax, or I think it was income tax collection in Arizona. This one was complicated and kind of out there in the fact that they hadn't even done an online sales tax yet. That failed. Body cameras, they were working on a law on body cameras. It became a study committee. So now there's no legislation, that just the legislation asks that legislators look at studying possible policies and requirements for privacy on body cameras. I think everybody felt that was a good compromise. There was a utility relocation bill that would have left cities unable to totally collect relocation costs by certain utilities. That was pulled, and they're going for a study group on that also. There was an outright ban for photo radar. I think everybody felt that was a safety issue. We don't have, and so these are the cameras on at the traffic lights. While we don't have photo radar on traffic lights, everybody felt that a little too far on that. The cameras have a purpose, and so this total outright ban got very close but was stopped. What was passed is a ban on a city's ability to ban plastic bags. So there are certain cities that we're looking to going to the supermarkets and saying you can't sell, give products out in these plastic bags, have to find another way. And so there's a ban that a city cannot go out and ban plastic bags locally. We were superseded by the state government. And it's interesting and just notable. There were a lot of other bills that didn't have a direct impact on Maricopa, so I've leave those for you to read in the paper. Legislative future in 2016. There's the complications with a primary property tax, the definition that we've been defined as a violating taxing authority. We'll be working through the off-session season. We'll be working on this consistently in preparation for next session, trying to build coalitions and find a fix for our situation. I think we'll talk about this more throughout the year. There's a Pima County lawsuit that we're watching very closely that will hold our attention and probably end up with us positioning at some point. The striker 1476 would have frozen a violating taxing authority like Maricopa's ability to raise property tax, primary property tax, and at that point we thought local control would be good, that we have that power. It's a mixed bag, but these are bills these are the issues that we're watching for and preparing for when the session comes up. One of our city requirements or goals is to do a decoupling bill to allow Maricopa to stand alone on their ability to manage their primary property tax rates without being tied at the hip to the other taxing authorities. And so that's something we'll be working on developing. The other one that has been very quiet and hasn't come out, there was a $331 million judgment against the state. We weren't sure how that was going to be cleared up. The Governor Ducey's budget put $76 million aside to cover that lawsuit. They're still quietly working that out, but at some point in a special session or something's going to have to happen, because they're going to have to negotiate a fix or do legislation. And there's a potential $1.6 billion liability if it goes totally against the state. And so there's no way that a $1.6 billion liability won't have an impact on Maricopa. So it's been laying very low, but at some point this year, this will probably pop back up. So then to the last slide is questions. So questions to anyone.
Paul, seems to be a recurring attempt to have public firearms in public places. That will probably come up again next year. There's no end to it. Body cameras, do you think that'll be reintroduced next session?
I think the body cameras. I think there is pressure from the news cycles to move quickly forward on the body cameras. I think that'll slow down, and once all the local jurisdictions have a chance to to study it, see how it operates within Maricopa, within the different cities, I believe they'll probably come out with a reasonable policy on that with a consensus and all stakeholders. On the gun legislation, these are reoccurring. The concept is if a building is paid with taxpayers' dollars, that they shouldn't have the ability to keep anyone from entering. It's a hot button issue for some people. I think they'll probably keep working that legislation and trying and see if they can find a compromise. Sometimes, usually they tone them down a little bit and they start to get better and tighter and more reasonable. That hasn't seemed to happen yet, but we'll see next year. But I'm sure that we will see additional gun legislation next year.
What is the Pima County lawsuit about?
The Pima County lawsuit, Pima County believes that the legislation passed by the governor as it relates to requiring cities that are violating taxing authority. There's a two-pronged test for that. If the combined property tax in a jurisdiction or a zip code area of the 3 or 4 taxing agencies, like for us, City of Maricopa, MUSD, CAC, and Pinal County, if our combined tax rate is over the constitutional limit of $10 or 1%, and among our peers, our rate is above the average of the peer group, then we're considered a violating taxing authority, and the law requires us to make whole public education, public schools in that entity. The requirement for us to take tax dollars that were voted on and dedicated to one purpose, in our case public safety, and being forced to refunnel those to another purpose triggers a whole lot of constitutional issues on the fairness and the initial intent of the vote. And Pinal County is moving forward with challenging that. They're seeking an injunction on.
Sorry, that's Pima County.
Pima County, yes. Sorry, so Pima County is moving forward with that, and basically they're looking for an injunction on the implementation of the requirement for violating authorities to make whole the school districts, and it's putting pressure. It's bringing the issue back up, and so it'll cause maybe a compromise. I think the lawsuit puts pressure on the legislature to get together and try to find an answer sooner rather than later. So in that respect, it's pushing the question.
Are there other questions? Any questions from our colleagues? That little creature's, okay.
Vice Mayor, members of the council are getting a little feedback there, so
Yeah.
for the council on the phone, we can't quite hear your questions.
All right, thank you, Paul, for your presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
10.6, the mayor and city council shall discuss possibly take action on adopting tentative budget for fiscal year 15-16. Discussion and action. Brian?
Vice Mayor Brown, Mayor Price, council members, thank you for having me here and being able to present help present the proposed FY 15-16 tentative budget for adoption. I will do a part of the presentation, and Finance Director Brian Ritchell will also do a portion of it. Next slide, actions to date. We start our budget process roughly in November, December of each year with the department directors putting together their capital needs, and then we go through the capital improvement program process. At the conclusion of that process, we review the capital budget with the BFO Council Subcommittee, and that occurs in roughly April of each year. That's after the City Manager's Office review and the Finance Office review of the capital proposed budgets. On April the 28th, the City Council had a budget retreat where we presented the information received from the BFO, as well as the proposed budgets from the various departments and the recommendation for approval of certain items from the city manager. And that brings us to tonight, where we are presenting the tentative budget for adoption. Next slide. The budget was created with these priorities in mind: economic stability, transportation, public safety, quality of life, and quality municipal services. Some of the key strategic objectives that were identified was ensuring that we're continuing to build community, provide programs, focus on infrastructure and policy roles, ensure that we are adhering to the financial policies that have been adopted by the mayor and council, as well as ensuring that we are transparent as possible and simply are functioning as good government. Next slide for fiscal year 2015-16 highlights. This proposed budget maintains the current levels of both external services and internal services in most departments, with the exception of the police department, where we're proposing to increase the level of services. As you are aware, we're proposing to bring the dispatching services from Buckeye, who we currently contract with, to in-house. And so that will occur, I believe, in roughly January of is that accurate? December, January of this year. December of this year, January of next calendar year. This budget reduces the primary and secondary property tax rate. There is no increase in sales taxes. It suspends the nonprofit funding program. It funds a new recycling program that Intergovernmental Director Jepson just presented to you. It fully funds the 5-year capital improvement program, which is a little different than what you've had in the past. In the past, it's been a 10-year program. We've narrowed it to a 5-year program, but each project that's identified in the CIP, we've identified a way of funding that project, so it is fully funded. It creates an internal interfund loan for the purchase of a fire ladder truck. As you recall, we're still pursuing a grant for the purchase of the ladder truck, but should we not receive it, we've already identified a way that we can fund the purchase of one. And this budget also is balanced. Typically, when I say that it's we've balanced this budget, I say it with great pride. This time I'm still proud of it, but there were a number of requests that were made from the respective departments that legitimately should be funded when we're in a financial position to do so, ranging from pages to to needs that exist in the fire department and still in the police department and public works and finance. Those were very legitimate requests that were made. We're simply not in a financial position to fund those. That doesn't change the fact that the need exists. I would like to turn it over to Finance Director Brian Ritchell to do the presentation on this area.
Thank you, City Manager, Vice Mayor Brown, Mayor Price, and Council. I'm on the fiscal year 15-16 operating budget overview. It has a zero-based budget, so every line item that is in the budget gets reviewed by the department directors, also by the city manager, myself, and then it also gets reviewed by the BFO, and then the mayor and council at the retreat. The current general fund anticipated revenues exceed proposed expenditures by roughly $12,000. This does include the contingency request of the $500,000. This is as the city manager Rose mentioned before, a balanced budget. This is the first time in a few years that we've been able to do this. It eliminates the general fund operating deficit, so basically is a balanced budget. And also the construction sales tax split in the past, was around 50-50 between the general fund to the general CIP fund. We reduced that to 80-20, so 80% of that, the construction sales tax will stay in the general fund and 20% will be moved over to the general CIP account. On the next slide, there was a few revisions that were made between tonight and the council retreat that was on April 28th. One of them was the addition of the changes for the fire and police departments. This budget includes changes to the salary and benefits per the MOUs that were adopted by City Council on May 5th of this year. And then also there was a slight change in a CIP project, allocated $22,500 from the general government CIP to the general fund for fire department repairs and maintenance. On the next slide is a brief overview of the total operating budget expenditures for the general fund. The total operating for the city is 51 million, and then the total CIP project budgeted expenditures is 62 million. And so it brings a total expenditures for the city for fiscal year 15-16 to 113 million, just over 113 million. On the next slide, it gives a little breakdown of the total amount that's been requested and proposed by the city manager's budget for fiscal year 15-16. So of the 51.29 million, 32.33 million is for the general fund. The HERF's operating budget is about 1.75 million. And we have Copper Sky, which is a special revenue fund, of about 4.95 million. And then we have the grants of 8.5, and then we have the debt service fund of 3.73. On the next slide, it gives a little bit more detail of the CIP funds. So the general CIP fund is about 11.5 million. One of the bigger ones is the grant CIP of 28.25. That includes the Tiger grant for the appropriations for the Tiger grant for the overpass, should the city receive that. Another one is the transportation impact fee fund, a little bit farther down, of 10.88 million, with a total of, for the CIP, 62.54 million for fiscal year 15-16. So on the next slide, the general fund revenue highlights, it anticipates continued reduction in the primary property tax revenues, as Intergovernmental Affairs Director Paul Jepson indicated about the 1% cap. The city is still affected with the 1% primary property tax cap, along with the state budget. We still anticipate a reduction in the primary property tax revenues. There is no increase in the sales tax rate, and there was a slight increase in the state shared revenue estimates. On the next slide, I have a little, it's the property tax levies. The primary property tax stays neutral. The levy doesn't include the 2% allowable levy increase where we could go to the max levy. The secondary levy, it decreased to 1.6973 for the debt service requirements. So the primary property tax, that is used for the day-to-day operations of the public safety from the voter initiative. And then the secondary property tax, that is restricted to debt service payments only. So with the, I know last year, down below, we have the rate and levy summary. Last year, the secondary was at 2.35, and this year it's at 1.69. The reduction is because we don't have that, we had a balloon payment of about $3 million for principal. This year, it goes back down to a normal amortization schedule and should stay roughly around 1.7, the secondary property tax for the rest of the life of these bonds that have been issued. Now, the primary property tax went down by about 20 cents from 4.98 to 4.78, and that is due to the net assessed valuation of the property increased from about 209 million to about 219 million. So that helped reduce the rate down, but the levy stays about the same. On the next slide, I have the revenues and expenditures overview. So total anticipated revenues for the general fund for fiscal year 15-16 is $32.3 million. The planned expenditures for fiscal year 15-16 is $31.8 million. That leaves a balance of about $512,000. Then we add in the contingency, the one-time contingency, $500,000. That leaves a balance of about $12,000 for the city's budget, which is very good from what we've seen in the past of a few negatives down there. So we have definitely a balanced budget this year and very proud of it. So that's the operating budget. Now moving on to the next slide for the fiscal year 15-16 CIP budget overview. It detailed the project information provided in a 5-year CIP plan. As the city manager Rose mentioned, we moved from a 10-year to a 5-year. It clearly identifies funding sources for fiscal year 15-16 projects, which include the police department substation at Copper Sky, the Public Works and Fire Fleet Maintenance Facility, and also the Amtrak station relocation. Those are just a few of the major projects that are in the CIP budget. And it also appropriates in the grants the SR 347 grade separation project. If funded, it's about $25 million. On the next slide for the overview, it also includes revisions to the following budget for the city council. Between the city council retreat and tonight, the local road maintenance fund, the proposed expenditures was $30,000. It should be $300,000. That adjustment was made, but we still have a balanced budget and is still able to fund the increase. So I'll hand it back over to City Manager Rose for On the Horizon.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Brown, Honorable Mayor Price, what has made this budget so difficult to balance is an unanticipated hit that we received as a result of legislation that was approved this year. Anytime that you experience a $1.75 million reduction in revenues that you'll receive that was unanticipated, that's going to be difficult to make adjustments. So we are certainly hopeful that we do not realize any other unforeseen impacts by the legislature. We know that the Occitan community has been very great neighbors to us and very gracious in their willingness to help us cover the expenses for Copper Sky. As you know, we are in the second year of a 5-year agreement where the Occitan community contributes roughly $1.5 million to the operation expense costs for Copper Sky. So that means that we have roughly 3 years in order to identify how we will begin to pay for that facility on our own. And so we cannot place ourselves in a position to where we must continue to rely on that contribution. If we're going to really take off for economic development in Maricopa, we must begin to focus more heavily on infrastructure needs that exist. That ranges from transportation, but also areas such as floodwater management are very critical for us. I believe that we need to continue to strive to improve the level of services that we provide to our citizens. One area that I think that we will in the future do a better job with is beautification, where there are a number of projects that we simply aren't in a financial position to do today, but the entrance to our cities really are an area where I believe that we can have a significant impact. So those are just a few of the areas that I would ask you to keep in mind, not only as you consider this budget, but future budgets. And with that, I and Finance Director Brian Ritchell will take any questions that you might have.
I have a question for Chief Stahl.
Make it a tough one. No, just kidding.
Vice Mayor, yes, sir.
Chief, do you anticipate that you have sufficient staff to service the dispatching needs?
Vice Mayor and members of council, we do believe that we have just sufficient numbers. We would like to have 2 more because of vacations and because of sick leaves and things like that, and family medical leave policies. The number 11 is the absolute, what we would deem as the best number to shoot for staffing. We do believe that we can do it with 9, and we will also be looking to other resources to be able to bolster those in the future. So we are looking at other options.
Well, I think it's great if we can do it with 9, because I can recall some years ago when the Sheriff's Department, we were paying for 12 staff.
Yes, sir. And there have been some things that have, through the dispatching services, that have refined themselves better to make processes better. But in the same vein, as we're now looking to the 21st century policing, as the federal government and as President Obama is now putting out some of his requirements and mandates, some of those requirements may require more people as well. So we're looking closely at those things, making sure that we stay on top of them, and we will be asking the city manager and/or council should that need arise.
Thank you. Are there other questions?
Thank you for the question.
Is there a motion?
Vice Mayor, I move to approve item 10.6.
Second. It's been moved and second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.